Hello, and I would like to thank you for this opportunity, for inviting me to address this audience with such an important issue which has made a turning point in the history of Kurdistan of Iraq and the region in its entirety. Thank you very much for organizing such an event, and thank you very much for your participation of every one of you. First, in order to underline the importance of Security Council Resolution 688 of 5th of April in 1991, I have to go back a few steps in history to underline the importance of such an event in the history of the people of Kurdistan and the region. As you all know, that the people of Kurdistan have endured a lot of sufferings, and throughout their history, the history has been unkind to them. Particularly in the 20th century, there has been numerous movements and rebellions and revolutions by the people of Kurdistan. And this has enabled them to achieve certain rights. But unfortunately, the repression and the level of suppression by successive Iraqi regime against the people of Kurdistan has been enormous, and there has been heinous crimes committed against their people. The scorched earth policy of destroying over 4,500 villages out of a total of 5,000, and the use of chemical weapons on a wide scale throughout Kurdistan, and particularly in 1988 in Halabja, and more so the Anfal campaign of 1987 and 1988, whereby 182,000 people were rounded up, and they have all been disappearing ever since. These have all been very bad and memories in the minds of our people. Therefore, when the invasion of Kuwait took place and the international community of 36 nations putting their forces together to evict Iraqi invasion army from Kuwait, that provided an opportunity for people of Iraq in order to uprise against this oppressive regime in March of 1991. The Iraqi army was no match for the might of the 36 nations. However, it was strong enough to suppress the uprising of the Iraqi people in the south, of the Shiites, and killing and murdering thousands of people from various towns such as Karbala, Najaf, and the marshes. Then, of course, the uprising of March of the same year in 1991 by the people of Kurdistan was a hallmark. It was a turning point in the history, in the modern history of people of Kurdistan, whereby in a matter of days or a few weeks, the entire region of Kurdistan was liberated from the oppressive army by the people of Kurdistan and by the Peshmerga forces. However, this jubilation did not last very long, because once the uprising in the south was suppressed, the army of the repressive regime, of the Ba'ath regime, turned its forces against the people of Kurdistan. And of course, it was only 3 years earlier where people had fresh memories of Halabja and Anfal. That's why they did not wait for the army to arrive. They fled to the mountains. And since there were no villages and communities standing on feet, people were leaving cities and towns, and they were obliged to go to the mountains. In end of March and April, we had almost 2 million people stranded on the mountains with the borders with Turkey and with Iran. This was known as the Exodus of the Million. On a daily basis, hundreds and perhaps thousands of old, young, and frail were dying because of starvation, cold, and rain and snow. Unfortunately, at the very beginning, these people were not able to enter any of the countries in the neighboring countries, because the magnitude and the scale of the exodus was so large. These countries were not able to host them. However, the lenses of the cameras managed to focus international conscience on this issue, and it moved the conscience of the international community. For the first time, the plight of the Kurds became an international issue. And the efforts of the late president of France, François Mitterrand, and for setting up Operation Provide Comfort and Safe Haven, and later on the former Prime Minister of Britain, Sir John Major, by pushing and promoting the Security Council resolution, which was passed on 5th of April. This was primarily within the humanitarian nature, calling Iraq to end its oppression and violation of human rights, but also extend the humanitarian assistance to the people of Kurdistan and setting up a safe haven for them. Out of the 15 members of Security Council, 10 members voted in favor, 3 voted against, and 2 abstained from voting. Immediately, international community came to the rescue of the people of Kurdistan, and Iran and Turkey opened their borders. Some of these people were settled there, and the communities, local communities, our Kurdish brethren across the borders also were instrumental by extending humanitarian assistance to the people who had fled their homes. But also, ordinary people across the globe were reaching out and supporting and sending very even modest assistance from their own pockets, from their own savings. And international community through UN agencies and international NGOs flooded to the area. Gradually, the region of safe haven expanded to cover all of Kurdistan. At that point, Baghdad extended an initiative to the Kurdish leadership in order to engage in a dialogue with Baghdad. Throughout the Kurdish movement, the Kurdish leadership has never rejected any form of peaceful settlement or dialogue. This is why they accepted this negotiation with Baghdad. But unfortunately, Baghdad was using this as a tactical move because they felt that if they settled some deal with the Kurdish leadership, the international embargo which was imposed on Iraq after invasion of Kuwait would be lifted. But how wrong they were, because the international community was determined to keep the embargo, which lasted 13 years. After knowing that, Baghdad retreated from negotiation, and then the talks failed. In October of 1991, Baghdad completely withdrew its forces from Kurdistan region, and it left a vacuum of authority. This was filled when Kurdistan Front, as an umbrella organization of Kurdish political parties, called for a free and fair election for the first time to be held in Kurdistan in May of 1992. We managed to set up our own parliament, our own government, despite our shortcomings, despite the flaws, despite our internal conflict. We were able to manage ourselves until 2003. Now, 2003 was a different era for the entire region. But I would say the people of Kurdistan, throughout their years of struggle and decades of struggle, they have achieved a lot. But 1991 was a very important turning point in our history. It actually laid the foundation stones of what we have today, which was later stipulated in the permanent Iraqi constitution in 2005, a federal entity within Federal Republic of Iraq. We are naturally grateful to international community for all of those who have extended a helping hand to the people of Kurdistan. As it used to be said, the Kurds have no friends but the mountains, but today we feel that we have many friends across the globe, and Russia is one of them. And today the Russian diplomatic mission in Kurdistan is very active. The oil sector, energy sector, investment sector of Russian Federation with big companies are very active in Kurdistan, and we would like to promote and we want to capitalize on this relation in order to develop it further, from government to government, people to people, business to business. And of course, we are eternally grateful for people like yourselves, the Orientalists, the academia, who have throughout decades, and perhaps particularly in the last couple of centuries, have extended support and have written widely about the history of the Kurds, about literature of the Kurdish people, and you have enriched the libraries, and we are grateful for that, of your contribution. We believe that our relation with Russia is a historical one. It goes back to the era of the Tsar, and then to the Soviet era, and of course in modern Russia. We would like to expand our relation across the board, and we as people of Kurdistan never had this opportunity in the past to reach out to the outside world. Today we have that opportunity. We extend the hand of friendship to every nation, to every state, and so far it has always been well received, and we believe that there is a lot more to be done, and we hope that the stability in Kurdistan that today we enjoy as a result of the struggle of the people of Kurdistan, as a result of 1991 exodus and the international community's attention and Security Council resolution and the support of good people and friends like yourselves, we have reached this situation and this development of our country. However, there is a lot to be done. There is an international threat, there is terrorist threat against all of us. And we have proven in Kurdistan in 2014 that we were at the forefront of fighting terrorism, which is a threat to humanity. At the same time, Kurdistan has hosted over 2 million refugees and IDPs across Iraq and Syria, which increased our population by 30% in 2014. And this is another proof that Kurdistan has adopted a policy of open heart, open door policy. At the same time, the coexistence of various ethnic groups, religious minorities, throughout our history, we are proud of that, and we want to keep it that way, where we have Kurds, Arabs, Turkmens, Assyrians, Chaldeans, Armenians, we have Turkmens, we have Muslims and Christians with all different churches, Yazidis, Zoroastrians, Sabi'is, Baha'is, Kaka'is, throughout our region, and we are proud of this history, we are proud of this coexistence, and this can only be maintained when we have security and stability in the region. And security and stability of the region is part of the same security and stability of the globe. Therefore, we have to work together and we have to fight any radicalism of any nature that is trying to undermine this security and stability and development of our country. Once again, I thank you for your contribution, and thank you for listening to me, and thank you for your support in the past, and expect that there will be more support. And I hope at some point, once we are over with this pandemic, we would be able to meet face to face rather than having a virtual communication. And hopefully you would be able to visit us in Kurdistan. We'll be honored to host you, and hopefully I will be able to visit you in Russia. And we are grateful for your past support and looking forward to our future cooperation. Thank you very much, and God bless.